Hey, before the video begins, the toast stickers are now on sale on Chodakana's Etsy shop. There will be a link in the description, so pick one up if you want to help support the channel. We've got the two different sizes, 2.5 inch and 3 inch, and the two different colors with the gold scissor scene in Colosseum and the lime green scissor scene in the other games. Birthday celebrations in Pokémon date all the way back to 2006 with the release of Diamond and Pearl for the Nintendo DS, which was able to use the system's fancy new time and date features to unlock special features on a player's birthday. Since today is my birthday, I'd like to take a moment to go over all the things you can see throughout the Pokémon series on your birthday. The Gen 4 games only acknowledge the player's birthday in the form of Dawn or Lucas asking the player if it was their birthday in Sandgem Town, which was not very exciting. My Pokémon Ranch has a toy that only shows up on the player's birthday, but only in the Japanese exclusive Platinum patch. Generation 5 added a few new things, including the role of asking the player if it's their birthday falling to Nurse Joy. The owner of the Nimbasa City Pokémon Musical Theater will give the player a toy cake prop once per save file, the mist on routes 14 and 15 will be gone for the entire day, and the quiz givers in Icerius City will have a special quiz for the player. Generation 6 added a short sequence that has appeared in almost every game going forward, where the first Pokémon Center the player enters on their birthday will have a short surprise party sequence. Generation 6 also had unique interactions with the bottom screen where other players could wish the player a happy birthday on the PSS, and visitors on the Pokémon and Me screen would leave presents containing Supreme Wish Poképuffs. X and Y also used the unique Diamond Dust weather that was introduced in Generation 4 for special occasions for the player's birthday, where it can be seen at the Frost Cavern in X and Y and also on Mount Lanakila in Generation 7. When moving to the Switch, Nintendo dropped the ability to set a birthday within the console, so Pokémon Sword and Shield as well as Pokémon Scarlet and Violet require a player to tell an NPC their birthday in-game. Either the horoscope lady outside the Pokémon Center in Wedgehurst, a lady outside the Global Wonder Station in Sinnoh, or any of the nurses in Paldea's Pokémon Centers. Sinnoh's remakes again only have one interaction with Dawn or Lucas, but in Galar there's a small detail when making curry, where the player's portion will have a birthday candle on top. Last but not least, Paldea introduced a new mark for the player's birthday, or at least made use of one that was in the data of Sword and Shield, the Destiny mark. All wild Pokémon that can have marks attached when caught have a 1 in 25 chance to have this mark on the player's birthday, which grants them a very cool title of the Chosen One. But with all that trivia out of the way, there is one more Pokémon series birthday staple that is central to today's topic, the birthday ribbon. Throughout the series, there have been many event distributions for Pokémon, and starting in Generation 4 they started to put special ribbons on event distributions such as the Classic Ribbon. In Generation 5 they introduced the Birthday Ribbon, which has been available every year for players who visit a Pokémon Center store in Japan on their birthday, attached to a distribution Pokémon that rotates every so often. But what if you wanted to get the Birthday Ribbon or one of the over a dozen other event ribbons on your Pokémon? Very, very rarely, these event-specific ribbons will find a spot in a game when a ribbon is needed for an achievement later in a generation's lifespan. But this has only happened 3 times with the National and Earth Ribbon in Generation 3's GameCube titles, and once more with the Legend Ribbon, which was initially an event ribbon in the data of Generation 4, before becoming available to earn by defeating Red in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Finally, 2 of these event ribbons, the Country Ribbon and the World Ribbon, were attached to the winning Pokémon of Pokémon League tournaments held at Pokémon Festa 2004, 2005, and 2007. A few of the winners of these tournaments have made their winning teams available as rental teams in the Sword and Shield games, but since then no ribbons have been handed out as trophies, though occasionally they do show up on event distributions of tournament winners as Pokémon, such as Ryota Otsubo's World Champion Ribbon Crocodile in Generation 7. But here's the real problem with event ribbons. Outside of a very quickly patched oversight on Game Freak's part when Home first released, where you could receive a Magearna with every event ribbon rather than the original form Magearna players were supposed to receive, no Pokémon gets more than one event ribbon. But what if we got every ribbon on one Pokémon? For real this time. After months of tinkering, I have collected a staggering 104 ribbons on one Pokémon, without using external cheating devices. Join me on this glitch showcase where I show you how I did it. Like last time, the first step is selecting our Pokémon. Unlike our previous selection though, I have a very particular Pokémon already in mind. This is Balboa the Onix. Now Balboa is very special to me. Over 9 years ago in 2014, I was completing Pokémon Leaf Green for the first time, finally completing it after I had previously abandoned it in favor of Diamond and Pearl back in 2007. While grinding in Victory Road to take on the Elite Four, what did I happen upon but a shiny level 45 Onix? with the full odds 1 in 8,192. Naming her Balboa for the Rocky Balboa and Boa Constrictor dual pun, she was part of my original team that finally conquered the Kanto Elite Four for my first time. She currently resides in Pokémon Home, having collected her fair share of ribbons from the various champions throughout the series. And there lies the issue. Our champion lies in Generation 8, and to get all the ribbons, we ideally start in Generation 3. To perform this forbidden backwards transfer, it's time to introduce the first glitch that will help us get all of the ribbons. Arbitrary code execution. Also known as ACE, this is one of the holy grails of glitch hunting in video games. Arbitrary code execution is pretty much the most powerful glitch you could use in any video game, basically allowing you to do whatever you want with enough knowledge. Games are made of code, and code is made of instructions. Talk to an NPC, the game goes through the instructions to show text, maybe check off some flags if talking to that NPC needs to be remembered, and plenty of other things are all going on in the background as you play the game. Arbitrary code execution is essentially if you could go into the game, write your own instructions, and then tell the game, hey, here are some instructions we need to execute. Basically allowing you to tell the game to do anything within the limits of its hardware. If you tell it to do things it can't, it's likely to crash, but with the right instructions, this glitch can basically do whatever we want. So now that we know what we want to do, the next step is finding a way to get the game to execute something as code. Luckily for us, this path is so well trodden it's basically a paved street, and it's all thanks to this little red bundle of joy, the Pommeg Berry. This item has no on-use effect in Ruby, Sapphire, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Colosseum, or XD Gale of Darkness, but in Emerald, it holds the key to infinite cosmic power by lowering a Pokemon's HP effort values by 10, and making it slightly friendlier. Now on paper, this is hardly the gateway to doing whatever we want in the game, and you would be right if Game Freak coded it correctly. There's a funny little sequence that plays out if you use a Pommeg Berry on, say, the last conscious Pokemon in your party that just so happens to be on 1 HP, and would lose 1 HP by losing those 10 HP EVs. This buggy pseudo-fainted state is very interesting, and allows the player to scroll up past the top of the party screen out of the data that contains their party Pokemon and start corrupting data stored elsewhere in the game. Like, say, this box of very meticulously trained Seedot and Plusle that we can get from in-game trades in Emerald. This chain of glitches is known as glitzer popping, and with the right setup is able to corrupt the data of your PC Pokemon into all sorts of weird things, often used to get eggs that can hatch into Jirachi or other event Pokemon. Because of the peculiar data structure of Dots the Seedot and Pluses the Plusle that we have set up, corrupting them will of course lead to bad eggs, but also has a chance to produce these very odd Dots eggs caught in a nest ball with Pokerus, exactly what we're looking for. When an egg hatches in Pokemon Emerald, the Pokemon inside plays its species' animation for being sent out into battle. Every species has one, and the Pokemon inside these eggs has a very, very interesting one indeed. When this Pokemon plays its animation either by hatching out of an egg or being viewed in a Pokemon contest visual round, the animation tells the game, hey, wouldn't it be neat if we went to the names of the PC boxes and executed them as code? Which you might notice is exactly what we need to perform arbitrary code execution. So after all the trouble to get these eggs that let us execute our code, what do we actually want to write? Luckily for us, Sleipnir17, who helped me with this process, and other glitch hunters have written codes already that we can modify. The first code we execute will be create Pokemon species from nothing, which we'll use to create a glitch Pokemon in box 10, slot 19. After typing in the code as the names of boxes 1 to 13, we crack open one of the glitched Dots eggs, and we can see the glitched Pokemon in our PC to confirm it worked. Then we need to execute another code called Certificate Exit Code Bootstrap, in order to modify the glitch Pokemon we just created. Essentially, this Pokemon will contain a code to exit our arbitrary code execution, allowing us to write longer codes without having to save a few boxes to write an exit, since our exit code routine is now attached to the glitch Pokemon. The reason it's called a certificate exit code is because this code is used to show the player's Pokédex certificate, which conveniently also stops code execution. After hatching another Dots egg, we're set up to do some very powerful glitches with our freed up box namespace. The final piece of the puzzle we'll need to be able to recreate Balboa is their Pokemon ID, Trainer ID, and Secret ID, three numbers I explained a bit in my video on stealing shiny Pokemon. Because Balboa is a full odds wild shiny, we can actually use her IVs to determine their Pokemon ID, and then use that to deduce what secret ID the leaf green save file could have to result in a shiny. By looking at her stats in Generation 8, we can calculate Balboa's IVs as 23 in HP, 29 in attack, 31 in defense, 5 in special attack, 14 in special defense, and 28 in speed. By putting these into a program called Pokefinder, we can find that there's only one PID that corresponds to a naughty nature in these exact IVs, 39479831. That's a hexadecimal number that tells the game everything it needs to know about Balboa. With a bit of further math, we can deduce Onix's secret ID as well, 13801. Now we have everything we need to transfer Balboa backwards into Pokemon Emerald. To start, we run a code to set their IVs to match Balboa's and set the ability to Sturdy. Then we run a code that sets the Met level to 45, Origin Game to Leaf Green, and Met location to Kanto Victory Road. With a PID of 39479831, a trainer ID of 38040, and a secret ID of 13801. As far as the game is concerned, this is exactly the same Onix that I met back in 2014, reconstructed and ready to receive ribbons. Philosophers will have to grapple with the ramifications of this for generations to come. Now that we have Balboa once more, we can finally get to the part where we actually earn some ribbons. Now that we have the entire game open to us via Ace, we only need to write one more code that will assign all available Gen 3 ribbons to Balboa. After hatching one last Dots egg, Onix goes directly from 0 ribbons straight to 32, including the 26 ribbons an Onix is usually able to get in Generation 3, the National ribbon normally reserved for Shadow Pokemon, the Country and World ribbons that, as mentioned, were tournament prizes in Pokemon Festa, and 3 odd ribbons called the Marine, Land, and Sky ribbon. Obviously themed after the trio of box legendaries for Hoenn, these 3 ribbons have no description in this game, and were never made available through any official channels. But, done with Hoenn, Balboa is ready to move to Generation 4. Generation 4 is a pivotal part of this experiment, as every event ribbon other than the ones we saw in Generation 3 was introduced here in Diamond and Pearl. The Marine, Land, and Sky ribbons now have a description of commemorative ribbon obtained in a mystery zone, which we'll see a lot of on these next few ribbons. In Generation 4, there is also a path to arbitrary code execution, but we actually don't need to go down it all the way. Instead, we're going to utilize Ace's sibling, arbitrary script execution. While Ace lets us tell the game absolutely anything we want, because we already have Balboa, we only need the game to assign the ribbons. Arbitrary script execution may be less powerful than arbitrary code execution, as it only lets us tell the game scripts that are already programmed in, but in the right hands, it could lead to full-blown arbitrary code execution. This glitch and its setup was discovered by a team of glitch hunters, including Retire Glitch, who helped me out with this process, so I'll link their much more detailed video about how this all works in the description. To start our ASE setup in Generation 4, we first have to use RNG manipulation to get this very specific level 22 Drifloon with a PID of FFFD27BB, nicknaming it I, a single lowercase I, and deleting all of its moves except for Stockpile. Then, we need to put Drifloon by itself as the 29th and 30th entries of our Hall of Fame data, so we use a glitch called tweaking by moving back and forth between sections of the map very quickly on the bike. This causes the game to incorrectly load certain chunks of the map, and allows us to get out of the map and trigger the Hall of Fame registration sequence with only Drifloon, who could never beat the Elite Four by themselves normally. The date of the 29th entry also has to be January 1st, 2012 because I'm running this on a 3DS system. And finally, I catch a Noctowl, give it a Silk Scarf, and catch a Machoke and a Cacturn. With our Drifloon data and party set up, now we need to set up a sequence that will let us outside the map in the upper floor of the Pokemon Center. To do this, we use tweaking to get into the void in the Poketch Company building by entering it from the inside. We then bike in the void until we reach the upstairs Pokemon Center map and save the game with the attendant before resetting. After the reset, we have a lot of biking in the void to do. First, we use an escape rope to warp back to Jubilife and view Drifloon in our PC Hall of Fame before going upstairs. As soon as we get up the escalator, the sequence that is supposed to put us in the Union Room plays out and pushes us through the south wall and into the void. From here, we walk a few steps into the void before using the Link Searcher Poketch app to intentionally crash our game. This puts us back in the void again where we last saved. And now we have to bike almost 6,000 steps to get to the proper spot for Arbitrary script execution. On the way, we stop here to trigger the Pal Park catching show sequence, which adds the retire function to our menu, very important for executing our scripts. The retire function is only ever intended to be used in the Great Marsh and Pal Park area, and executes the map script to take the player out. When taken out of the intended areas, however, it can be used to execute other things instead. When we finally reach the correct spot, a few precise steps interspersed with swapping around Noctowl, Machoke, and Cacturn causes our pause menu to glitch out a bit, and now we have the keys to Arbitrary script execution ready to go. This setup isn't 100% guaranteed, and it did take a few tries where it would crash or seal my ability to open the pause menu rather than the intended effect. So now we have a retire function that can execute game scripts to our liking, but there isn't much to write scripts with out here in the void at first glance. But that's where our Poketch's Dot Artist app steps in, which is an optional app that you can get from the Poketch developer in Sunny Shore City. The dots in this app essentially act like a field of writable data for us, and with this setup, the retire function will now execute what we draw in the Dot Artist as code. The script we want to execute is as follows. OX231 is a hexadecimal number that corresponds to the command setRibbon, which is used to attach ribbons to a party Pokemon. PPI stands for the Party Pokemon Index, which indicates which Pokemon in our party we want to set a ribbon on. In this case, slot 0x0 is the first slot of our party. Finally, the rib parameter is the ribbon we want to assign. All ribbons in Generation 4 are stored in the order that they appear on the ribbons screen, with ribbon 0, or 0x0, being the champion ribbon, all the way up to 0x4f, or ribbon 79, being the premier ribbon. By incrementing the rib parameter, we can change which ribbon we assign, assigning all of the event ribbons one by one. This allows us to obtain the record ribbon, history ribbon, red ribbon, green ribbon, blue ribbon, festival ribbon, carnival ribbon, classic ribbon, and premier ribbon, bringing our total to 80 ribbons. The final step is to use ASE to remove the Pal Park menu, and then fly out of the void to go back to Jubilife. By saving and entering the GTS, we can get rid of the wrong warp that we set up in the Pokemon Center and return to normal gameplay. Transferring to Generation 5, we still don't have any ribbons to obtain, but it is notable as here many of the previous generations' event ribbons were altered when transferring into Unova. The History ribbon is renamed the Event ribbon, the red ribbon becomes the World Champion ribbon, the green ribbon becomes the Birthday ribbon, the blue ribbon becomes the Special ribbon, the Festival ribbon and Carnival ribbon are renamed to the Souvenir and Wishing ribbon respectively, and the Marine, Land, and Sky ribbon are replaced by the Battle Champion, Regional Champion, and National Champion ribbon. Despite not changing since this point, the Record ribbon, Regional Champion ribbon, and National Champion ribbon still have not been released on any distribution Pokemon. Now some of you may have been waiting to see Balboa reach Generation 6. As to reach it, we'll have to go through Pokemon Bank, which actually has some checks in place to filter illegal Pokemon. Balboa, with more ribbons than should ever be possible, actually makes it through with no issues, as Pokemon Bank has no checks in place for ribbons obtained, only illegal origins, moves, or stats. Because Balboa has identical origins to a completely legal Onix, they make it to Generation 6 perfectly fine. And now with all of the event ribbons collected, we're free to collect all of Gen 6 and 7's ribbons normally. I evolved Balboa into Steelix in Generation 6 to allow her to Mega Evolve into Mega Steelix. Also, when we reach Generation 7, we get to see a rare sight, in that our 40 ribbon contest memory ribbon is actually gold, which can only happen in a situation like this, where one or more event ribbons allow a Pokemon to get 40 other ribbons total. Finally arriving in Generation 8, Balboa also makes it through Pokemon Home with no problems. Generation 8 introduced the ability to highlight a ribbon on your Pokemon, which allows them to enter battle with a title like Toast the Triumphant. Every event ribbon also has a unique title, even unreleased ones like the Record Holder or the National Champion. After collecting the few Galar ribbons, Twinkling Star ribbon, and Hisui ribbon, we have one more ribbon-related glitch to execute, and I can finally reveal why I chose Onix beyond the nostalgia story from the beginning. Introduced in Sword and Shield, there are many different marks that wild Pokemon can have when you encounter them. Marks appear on the ribbons screen, and all come with a unique title as well, but in Sword and Shield they only appear on wild Pokemon, with no way to earn them after the fact. In particular, we're interested in the Curry mark. When making Curry in Pokemon Camp, there is a chance that wild Pokemon will visit your camp if you have one of the 3 basic Pokeballs in your bag and your party Pokemon have a high enough sociability, a hidden stat raised by cooking. When a wild Pokemon spawns this way, they will request to join your team, going into a Pokeball, Great Ball, or Ultra Ball depending on what you have in your bag. These wild Pokemon also spawn with a Curry mark guaranteed, giving them the title of Curry Connoisseur. A very weird glitch can sometimes occur with these Curry encounters though if your 3rd or 4th slot Pokemon has a large hitbox and floats during its idle animation, where the Pokemon will be staring at your camera instead of the wild Pokemon that just spawned. Interacting with your Pokemon in this state will prompt you to let them join your team as if they were the Curry encounter Pokemon. And if you agree, they will both go into a Pokeball as well as stay in your party. From here, the Pokemon that actually spawned from the Curry will act as if it was one of your camper Pokemon until you pack up. A lot of the research on this glitch and which Pokemon can perform it was performed by Spike Oriundo of the Pokemon Ribbons Discord, and I'll link to their video detailing it as well. From what we can tell, the large hitboxes make it so that there's a chance your Pokemon will align in such a way around the wild Pokemon that one of them will be clipping into the player's hitbox, causing this weird behavior. This glitch is aptly called the Curry Clone Glitch, and it not only gives the affected Pokemon the Curry mark, but also completely rewrites its Met location data. Its Met level is set to their current level, they gain a Galar origin mark, and their Met location is set to wherever the camp encounter occurred. Only a few species of Pokemon can do this glitch, including Salamence, Moltres, Giratina's origin form, Eternatus, Noivern, and Steelix. But it requires a huge amount of luck, as Curry encounters are only a 25% chance even with the highest ranking Charizard class Curries, and we need to get lucky with the hitboxes spawning the right place. After a few hours of cooking on stream, Steelix joins our party for a second time, earning their 104th ribbon, the Curry mark. And there you have it. The maximum number of ribbons and marks a Pokemon can hold at one time is 104. While Onix and Steelix don't appear yet in the Paldea Pokedex, hopefully Balboa and her clone may one day take on the Academy Ace tournament and push the boundaries of what it means to truly have all the ribbons. But for now, thanks for coming with me on this Ribbons Glitch Showcase, and thanks for watching.